Welcome to At Your Library. I'm your host, Kathleen Clifford. Joining us today is Lee White. Lee is a Groton resident and currently serves on our Board of Education. She has been writing about food for decades and currently writes 2 columns for the Day's weekly paper. This reaches North Haven to Mystic. The Groton Public Library with Lee is going to be hosting a 4-part series on food. Food, growing it, cooking it, teaching it, and writing about it will take place Thursday evenings on May 10th. So we're calling all you foodies out there to pay attention and come in on Thursdays. Welcome, Lee, to At Your Library.
It's always nice to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I read your column all the time in the paper, and you give me things to do, places to go, and where to eat. So thank you for that.
Well, you're so welcome. I'd also like to tell you that
absolutely.
Beyond the Timeses, which are from Lyme to Mystic, thereabouts, the Day also owns a lot of newspapers that are south of the Baldwin Bridge.
Oh, excellent.
So I think there are 15 or 16 altogether.
So people can search you everywhere.
Yes, well, they certainly can.
So you have quite a food background. So I'm going to go right back to the beginning. How did your interest in food start?
Maybe it started because there wasn't a whole lot of interesting food in the house growing up.
Okay.
My mother did not cook. Some people say my mother didn't like to cook. My mother did not cook. We had a store, and she realized a long time ago that it was easier to work in the store with my father and hire someone to come in and cook and clean and take care of the kids.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So did you cook your meals, or you had somebody that cooked
No, the
for you?
housekeeper did that too.
Okay. So
Yes.
because your mom, were you curious on why and find out if it was something that you were going to enjoy since she didn't? Or?
I was probably the only person that loved the food when I went to college.
Wow.
I had never had shrimp with that yellow sauce on top.
Okay.
I had never had baked beans.
Wow.
I had never had macaroni and cheese.
Well, that might be okay, but there's some good ones out there.
Yeah, and I actually liked college food. I thought it was terrific. I was married twice. I learned to cook when I was married to my first husband.
Okay.
But he was a picky eater. So I didn't become a good cook at that point.
Okay.
After my divorce and a few years later, I married my second and only husband. And he had a mother like mine. His mother did cook, but wasn't very good at it.
Okay.
So he was so grateful for anything that I would make. And that makes you a better cook.
Right.
It really does.
When you're appreciated.
Because very honestly, anybody who wants to cook can.
Right.
There's nothing involved with this. Now, we're not chefs. I'm not a chef. You're going to meet some of the chefs at this series, but I'm not one. I'm a good home cook.
Okay.
But I started by eating food from restaurants.
That's excellent.
Yes.
So you've hosted programs here at the library before.
I did once before.
We had, one of them had a big name, Jacques Pepin.
Yes.
And you know a lot of big chefs, and we have some great chefs and authors participating. How did you get to meet people like this?
I met, the first local one that I met was Priscilla Martel and Charlie Vanover, who had the Restaurant du Village. And she's going to be one of the series speakers. And I met them when they had Restaurant du Village.
Oh, okay.
Then I met other people and wound up at a party in Stony Creek. And Jacques and Gloria were there.
Okay.
And a lot of people just got together, and now we play boule, which is like bocce. Mm-hmm. And we have about 35 or 40 people in our boule group, and many of them are chefs.
Oh, wow.
The chef from, the Bar Boucher and Union League, he's in it. We have a lot of them.
That's great.
Yes, it is. It's fun. The food is always good.
Well, I was going to say, just going for that is worth it.
Please,
and
yes.
the company.
Yes.
So we're going to do a 4-week series.
We are.
Each week is going to feature a different topic and a different guest speaker.
Yes.
So I thought we would take it one by one, and we'll go over each week so people know what's coming up and where to come. So The first program is about growing food, and it's going to take place on May 10th. Now, it is the owner and farm manager of Whitegate Farm in East Lyme, Pauline Lord. And can you tell us a little bit about her and what she's going to be presenting that night?
Well, Pauline will be there. She owns it with her husband. They have had it for many years. It was originally her mother's home and farm. I mean, it's in Flanders, not Niantic.
Okay.
It is just beautiful. And I think it's the first time we've had an organic farmer in our area.
Oh, that's great. It's so important.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
She and her husband originally came from the Bay Area, San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And came here because I assume her mother needed help.
Okay. So they came back for family.
They've now turned that into a small inn, and they have a chef, and they do demos. But for most of us, it's the organic farming.
Right, and I think that's just so timely in today's world.
It's just...
So Kent Geardy is the farm manager for 2 years, and he is going to share his extensive nutritional and culinary knowledge with visitors to the farm stand. So he is going to be doing a lot of the presentation too?
I think they will probably do it together.
Okay.
Yes, because they're going to be doing a PowerPoint.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they're both terrific people.
Excellent.
It's going to be fun, and a lot of us have gone to Whitegate Farm.
Great.
Have you been there?
I haven't been there,
really
so
good.
I'm going to have to come on May 10th to see what I'm missing.
Yes.
So the first program is Thursday, May 10th at 7 p.m. The second program is going to be on May 17th, and it's going to focus on teaching about cooking and feature the cookbook writing team of Mark Scarborough and Bruce Weinstein. This team has written over 30 cookbooks, some of which we have here at the library, so that'll be great for people to check them out.
And I don't even remember this one.
Really? Lobsters scream when you boil them.
Yes.
Oh, how?
They don't really.
No.
No, they don't really.
I know. I'm from Maine, so I'm a lobster
You know
girl.
that.
Yeah.
Well, Mark and Bruce and Mark are just Renaissance men. I don't know any way to put it. In addition, one of them does the writing, and one of them does the cooking when it comes to cookbooks. But in addition, I can't remember which is which sometimes. One of them sings in choruses.
Oh, okay.
One of them teaches knitting. One of them teaches literature.
Wow. I guess Renaissance Men.
They do demos. They have podcasts. They do everything.
And are they local as well?
They live in the Litchfield area.
Oh, okay.
I think Cornwall.
So they're going to be teaching about cooking?
They're going to talk about how to teach cooking.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's basically that's what a cookbook does. Really.
Right, exactly.
It helps you learn to cook, and that's what they're going to talk about. But they're a true partnership. When they talk, they sort of finish each other's sentences.
Oh,
and because they live a little further away, in one of their recent books, I'm going to make something from it for people to eat.
Oh my goodness! So
Yes.
there'll be samples.
Yes, yes.
So that
Probably not as good as what they do, but I will be there.
I think
doing
that'll be worth coming in for.
It is just for food.
But they sound really lovely, so I think
They're fun. They're great fun. They are. And they also have 2 gorgeous collies.
nice.
A grown-up one and a baby one.
Oh,
And
so
I said, bring them, but they probably won't.
they probably won't.
Yeah.
I don't know, dogs and cooking sometimes.
Oh, I used to have dogs.
Yeah.
They would, as a matter of fact, they were big too. And I would have to step over them when I was cooking. Yes.
Nice. They sound lovely. So that is our second program.
Yes.
So it's on May 17th, and it's called Teaching About Cooking with Mark Scarborough and Bruce Weinstein. We're going to take a short break right now, and when we come back, we'll talk about the other 2 programs.
Terrific.
All right. This is At Your Library. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Lee White will still be with us talking about the food programs taking place here at the library in May.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
We believe that when the community comes together, we can do great things.
We're working to make Groton the healthiest and safest place for everyone.
Hey kids, listen to your parents.
We want you to have the facts and the best tools to keep you safe.
We know there is a lot of confusing talk about drugs in the media.
Parents, we know you have a tough job to do, teaching your kids about alcohol and drug abuse. We're here to help you.
Let's work together to change community norms about drugs and alcohol.
Help us out. Volunteer. Donate.
Find us at Groton Prevents and join us.
Welcome back to At Your Library. This month's guest is Lee White, and we're talking about the food programs that are going to be happening on Thursdays throughout the month of May. They're going to be at 7 o'clock each week here at the library, and if you need more information, you can check our newsletter or call us here at the library. But let's get right back into it. So the third program is May 24th, and it's called Cooking in a Restaurant. It will feature Chris Prosperi. He is a weekly senior contributor on the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze on WNPR. What else can you tell us about Chris? What is he going to do? What is he going to share with us?
Well, he may bring food too.
Excellent.
He's really good at this. But he has a restaurant called Metro Bis in Simsbury. And if you're familiar with the Zagat surveys, he is usually around a 27 out of 30.
Wow.
His restaurant is beyond fabulous. And it's in the 1820 house in Simsbury on Hot Meadow Avenue.
Oh, okay.
And
absolutely.
his partner in the building, who used to be his wife, but they're not anymore, but you know they're there all the time, is Courtney Fabriello.
Okay.
Long name. And she wrote a book called Wife of the Chef.
Oh,
about
okay,
her
so
life
another author.
With a chef.
When
Yes.
she was married to Chris?
When she was married to Chris, yes. And I wrote a book, a very small book it was early 2000. And he was one of the chefs. And that's how I met him. I've known most of these people for a couple of decades. And he is such a good chef. And having a good friend who is a great chef, when I get in trouble in my kitchen, I say, Chris, what do I do now?
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's
and
great.
it was interesting because he would call me, because he writes a column with Linda Juka, who is also going to be on one of our series. And that is about cooking at home.
Okay.
And he would call me and say, I know what we do in a restaurant, but what would you do in your kitchen? Because it's very different.
Very different.
Yes.
Now, when you say cooking at home, do you mean like everyday meals to make for your family, or are you talking about cooking at home for dinner parties or more of a fancy?
I think really it's for almost anything.
Okay.
Faith Middleton's show is about, I mean, the people who are listening to her show are wanting to learn about cooking. And I think cooking for a dinner party is one thing, but most of us cook all the time.
Cook to
That's why
to
a lot of
nourish
us are
and to
tired
enjoy.
of cooking. I didn't cook that much because I was working full time
Right.
the whole time my daughter was growing up. So the last thing in the world I wanted to do was cook.
And I don't cook. I mean, I don't cook. It's not that I don't enjoy it. I just find that I don't have time, and we're
You
always
don't
on the
have
go.
time.
And
Yes.
you know, I'm a
Well,
working
you
mom.
you need to get an Instant Pot.
I do need an Instant Pot, and I need to come to all of these food shows because I
Yes.
need some guidance on what to cook.
Sure. I'll help you anytime. You just call me.
Well, there we go. I'm going to put your number in my speed dial. So Chris is actually going to talk about cooking in a restaurant when he comes.
Yes.
Excellent. I say excellent a lot. I get excited. So our final program is going to be on May 31st, and this will cover writing about food. And you have quite the panel assembled.
I do.
Including yourself.
Well, I wasn't going to be part of it.
Okay.
I was just going to say these are food writers, and the food writers said to me, "Well, why aren't you in it too?" So
well,
it's
you're
four
a
of us.
food writer.
4 women.
Okay.
Linda Juka was food editor of the Hartford Courant for over 30 years. She's now retired, but writes a column for the Hartford Courant with Chris Bosberry.
Oh, okay. Right.
Priscilla Martell owned the Restaurant du Village. She and her husband have been cooking for years. She is a writer. She has written books mostly for culinary school professionals.
Oh, like textbooks.
Yes, and she is my reference book. When I'm writing, and I have a lot of reference books on my desk, but when there's something I cannot find, I just call Priscilla and say, "What is?" She knows everything.
Wow.
And she's lovely.
Wow.
And she's a good friend. These are all friends.
That's great. And the last one is Pam McNerney.
Pam McNerney is the living editor of a bunch of weeklies that are from, well, it's south of the Baldwin Bridge Road, and it goes all the way down to one of the New Havens, one of the Havens, and into Chester and into that area, Guilford, all of them. So they all have different names, but she is one of my 2 editors.
Okay, and she's very well read, obviously.
She is the first editor I have ever had who knows as much about food as I do. Wow. Which doesn't mean that I know a lot about food. It just means that she cooks, she understands what I'm writing about. If I made a mistake, she will know if it's wrong and let me know or whatever. And she's just a joy to work with. She's great, and she lives in Madison.
So the 4 of you are going to talk about writing food articles? Are you going to answer questions?
Yes, we will. And we all know restaurants too, because people always want to ask about restaurants.
Right.
We all know about restaurants.
Especially here in, southeastern Connecticut, we do have a lot of visitors. I like to call them visitors in our area, and we want to make sure that, they get to the right places. We want to show off our amazing area
and we have great foods.
We do.
I cannot imagine any other bunch of small towns that have food that is comparable to San Francisco, Chicago, New York. Not as many, but so many of our chefs come from big cities because they want to bring their families and live in lovely places to live.
Right, because it's a great place to raise your family.
We have terrific food.
We do, and I can say, I might not cook, but I certainly eat, and I love good food.
Yeah, we have just wonderful food. So, during that panel discussion, we certainly will answer questions.
So you're going to want to bring your notebook on May 31st, because that's the one where you're going to write down all the good tips from the panel of 4. All of the programs are free and open to the public. You do not have to register. You can just walk in. The library will be taping the programs and showing later on GMTV, but that doesn't mean you don't want to come in firsthand, because if you watch it taped, you don't get to ask questions. And you don't get to meet them in real life. So if you miss it, it's okay, but you really want to try to come in. Again, these are the food programs hosted by Lee White in the month of May here at the Groton Public Library. Thank you so much for coming.
So
it was
welcome.
wonderful to talk to you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. This has been At Your Library. Thanks for checking in.